So, one of the most endearing images, I think, from the weekend was the reuniting of brothers William and Harry and their respective wives. If the gossip columns are to be believed, the pair have been at war ever since Harry and Meghan departed for their new life in California. But it was a special image to see the four, there they are there, emerge from Windsor Castle together and talking to inspect the hundreds of thousands of floral tributes and cards laid near the gates. We hear that it was William, now the Prince of Charles, who wanted Harry and Meghan to join the occasion, although I noticed another publication tonight is saying that Charles insisted they stay together. To talk about what's transpired since the Queen's death, I'm joined now by Mark Latham, leader of One Nation in New South Wales. Mark, thank you very much for your time. We knew the Queen didn't have that long to live, but I'm surprised at the outpouring of emotion in the UK, the piles and piles of tributes and the grief. It's almost as if it's come as a shock, or maybe it's just that we miss her so much already.
Well, Chris, she was a larger-than-life figure, and for many people, a constant. They thought she'd never end, that she'd never pass away. The night she was dying, and the medical notification obviously pointed to the fact that she was on her deathbed. My son came home from his job, and I said to Oliver, sadly, the Queen is dying. And his reaction as a young 21-year-old was, I didn't know she was allowed to die, that in his world, she was going to be forever. And I think that is the reaction. People have reacted with shock and grief, but also the overwhelming respect for her long life of service. Sure, the royal family don't do it tough financially and materially, but she didn't have a life away from serving the people of Britain and the Commonwealth. Her life was the job, and vice versa. So, that puts it in proper perspective. So I think the outpouring of grief, I've got to say, I'm not surprised by it. People are mourning. They're shocked that their earlier perception of the Queen, that she'd last forever, we've been jolted. And I think in the case of Harry and William, grief does bring people into a different perspective, and they're probably looking at their past issues and problems as trivial now compared to the enormity of the passing of this wonderful woman. So, some good there coming out of it for their family.
See, that was the next question I wanted to raise with you. We all have our own family dysfunctions. As a matter of fact, I always say that dysfunction in families is the norm, not the other way around. So we see the boys back together. William allegedly wanted this to happen. Who knows what the truth is there? I just get the feeling that in grief, good things can come from grief, and you just hope that those two, given what they've been through and what they have in front of them, do remain tight.
Yeah, I think because of the legacy of Princess Diana, a lot of people have been saddened by the fact that those two brothers, who were once so close, have been estranged. So out of grief, they might find some common ground and deal with their differences, whatever they've been in the past, and try and move on with a new sense of unity and purpose. So that is one positive thing that can come out of this, and I'm sure something the Queen herself would have wanted. It's been a sad thing to watch those two young boys so close grow into men who've had these difficulties. So hopefully that'll be in the past, and we'll see what the future brings for them.
Technically, the royal family seems like an anathema, almost redundant when you think about the duty that they physically and officially have, especially to Commonwealth countries. But why has it lasted so long? Why has it been so strong?
Well, maybe it's getting stronger. I mean, they had a difficulty. The Queen was the first monarch of the mass media age, so people thought they knew her, like a lot of people who appear on TV. There's a public perception. Somehow I know that person well. I know what makes her tick. She's a solid constant in my life. That's reliable, it's certain. And while the royal family's obviously had a lot of difficulties in negotiating some of the media coverage, particularly the subsequent generations, that feeling of certainty and stability is important in a world where so many things are changing, so many values, so many past certainties are being lost. The royal family tends to be a rock of stability. I'm still a Republican, of course, but I'm just looking at this objectively as to why there's an opportunity, I think, for Charles to consolidate on the work of his mother. And if they can put their petty scandals and difficulties behind them in terms of media coverage, they might find in a world of constant change and instability, their institution looks a little bit better.
That's interesting. Interesting observation, once again, from a Republican.